Hi everybody, Joshua Barks here, associate broker with Keller Williams Realty Boise and team lead of the Barks & Co. real estate team. Let's dive into our deep dive of July 2022 market dynamics, talking about Ada and Canyon County existing home sales. And without further ado, let's get into these bullet points. I know this is going to be far too long for most of you, though I've cut myself out of it and just have the PowerPoint presentation again this time so that it is in efforts to be shorter than normal. First off, let's go into these bullet points. The frenzy that we've been experiencing over the past couple of years is over. I mentioned that last time, but I think it's worth repeating that the frenzy is over. We're getting back to a market of quote unquote normalcy. Inventory continues to rise. We've actually seen inventory hit its most available homes that we have for sale in Ada County since 2015. The summertime of 2015 was the last time we had this many available homes at one time for sale. On the flip side of that, demand continues to soften. In fact, demand is staying relatively flat month over month. And because of the high interest rates and the economic uncertainty with the impending recessionary tales that we're seeing out there, we're seeing demand, soften. People are taking a pause right now. The average sales prices, because we have inventory coming up and demand hasn't really changed much, and in some cases has come down, we are seeing the average sales prices no longer rapidly appreciating. They haven't started to depreciate yet. We're still ahead year to date, and mostly they have flattened. In Ada County, they're pretty much the same month over month, and in Canyon County, they've actually increased considerably, which is interesting to see. Absorption rates still show that we're still considering this a seller's market across most price points. In fact, every price point except for the upper end markets in both Canyon and Ada County are experiencing a strong seller's market. And in those upper price points, we are seeing some more balanced market. And then I believe once you get to the extreme price points, and I'm saying like 2 million and up, then we're starting to see a buyer's market, according to what economists say based on absorption rates. Now, the awesome part about the frenzy being over is negotiations are finally happening again. Things are getting a little bit more fair. Buyers and sellers are having to negotiate with one another. Counteroffers are happening. Inspection repair requests are becoming normal again. Buyers don't have to waive every contingency in order to get a home sold or a home purchased, and sellers can't just stick a sign in the yard and say, give me $1 million. Because there's nothing else out there, you have to buy my house. Finally, that's not happening. So we're starting to see prices stabilize, which is great. And it's a fantastic time to buy and sell depending on your individual needs. So if you've been considering a move and one of the things that's been holding you back, especially over the past couple of years, is like, yeah, I'd sell for no problem, but then I would not know where to go because there's nothing available. Well, now we finally have more homes available. So the market is providing you with more opportunities on finding your next place after selling your current place. So that's really good news for people that are in that position specifically. Okay, so those are the highlights. Let's dive into Ada County market dynamics for July. As always, we start with this market trends chart. So let's get to that. And first off, the red line being the number of active listings that we have in that month. Then we have the gray bars being the pending sales, and then the black bars being the number of closed sales in that month. So as of right now, we have 1,565 active listings for sale in Ada County. That is up more than twice as much as what we had this time last year. 650 we had this time last year. Now we have 553 pending, which is down from last year's 792 by quite a bit. However, month over month, we had 563 pending a month ago and 553 now. So that's barely a change. I'd say that's basically staying about the same. And that's when we started to see inventory climb. Now, when we look at the number of homes sold, home sales are down a little bit, 530 compared to 608. And yes, of course, 530 is less than what we saw last year with 822. But as you know, we had a crazier market last summer because it kind of just jumped on the bandwagon from the previous year as well. And summertime is usually when we see the most available homes on the market, and pending and closed sales pretty much flatten. That's usually what we see prior to the pandemic, and it looks like we're getting back into that habit. Like see 792 last year was down considerably from what we had in 2020 when the market was absolutely insane in the summertime, 822 compared to 1,000 sales. So we're finally getting back to more of a normal place. Yes, one thing that I find very interesting is that the last time we had this many available homes, we did have more pending and more sales. So we are likely starting to see prices, like I said, stabilize across the board. And in some cases, prices will start to come down if interest rates don't come down and demand come up because of that. So that's really interesting to see when you're looking at the year over year and the year to date increases in purchase price. So far, they've been increases. We are at 5.6% so far this year, which is a very minimal change from what we saw last month when we had 5.5%. So it only came up 1/10 of a percentage point in 1 month. And when we experienced this basically 35% year, you might recall we were seeing basically 5% a month. And so that's why people are saying, oh, prices are coming down. Well, they haven't technically come down yet because we're still appreciating in the average sales price with being 607 instead of 606. But we are seeing that rate of appreciation flatten dramatically in Ada County. So with that, you're not able to look at the comparable sales and say, okay, the last one sold for $550, and so I'm going to start at $550 because I know that's what it's worth. When in reality, $550 might be the ceiling, the most that you could get for it, because that's what your neighbor sold for, rather than the least that you could get for it, because of the competition that you now have as a seller in the marketplace. So pricing becomes a very interesting strategy. Not going to go into details with that right now because that's a whole nother video in and of itself. And when we're actually looking at just the absorption rate and the days on market is rising still. We have 18 days on average in Ada County. The last time we had this many available homes, the average days on market was 40 days. So we're still a long way from that. However, it is increasing, and I would not be surprised if we saw the average days on market go back to somewhere in the mid-20s by the end of the year, which is what we were experiencing prior to the pandemic, was mid-20s. So inventory, we have 2.5 months supply on average across all price points, which is still in that seller's market category because it's less than 4 months. And what we see is less than 2 months supply up to 400, and then less than 3 months supply up to 800. But we're still less than that 4-month cutoff all the way up to 1.5 million in Ada County. So under 1.5 million, it's still considered a seller's market right now. And then between 1.5 and 2 million, we're considered to be a balanced market. And then over 2 million in Ada County, we have 7.3 months. Beyond 6 months, it's considered a buyer's market. So above 2 million, it's considered to be a buyer's market right now in Ada County. So really interesting to see some diversity in those numbers. For so long, we've just seen seller's market all the way down the chart here. And we're working our way toward that more balance, which is good and healthy for everybody. Now, when people ask, where are prices going? Again, one thing that I like to look at that I think may give us a little bit of an indicator is our average sales price right now at 607. Well, the average asking price of everything in the MLS is 741, and then the average pending right now is just under 650. So I like to look at this and say, this is what sellers are hoping for. This is potentially what they're getting, and then this is ultimately what they're getting. So the real delta is between what they're getting and what they might be getting, showing that the average sales price still is likely appreciating. Because the average pending price right now is still so much higher than the average sold price. Now, once the average pending price and the average sold price kind of balance out, then we know that prices are likely not going to continue to be rising as much. So that's kind of what you look at there. 18 days on market, that's up from 17 days, which we had last month. And so we've pretty much gone up 1 day each month so far this year, which is good. And like I said, I think we'll be experiencing that kind of mid-20s by the end of the year easily, because average days on market for everything that's like active right now is probably in the 30s. Top 3 areas for Ada County. Unsurprisingly, we have North Boise coming in at number 1, 10.5% almost, with an average sales price in North Boise at $842. Southwest Meridian being number 2. That might surprise some folks, but Southwest Meridian has been in top charts for quite a while. It has a lot of room to grow out there, and 8.6% is what we saw so far this year. 701 being the average sales price in Southwest Meridian, and then Star. A lot of building going on out there. I know this is only existing home sales, but a lot has been built over the past couple years, and so people, moving from those existing homes now. Average sales price in Star being $651 with an 8.1% appreciation so far this year, the average sales price. So that's kind of Ada County. Let's get into Canyon County. And again, with Canyon County, we always start with the market trends chart, so that's going to be next. And first off, a red line being the number of active listings, gray bars being pending sales, and then the black bars being the closed sales for that month. So this is month over month, showing 13 months. So you have July 2022, July 2021, and right now we have 648 active listings in Canyon County compared to this time last year when we had 277. Now, pending sales, 224 right now, which is down slightly from last month, 252, but I would say relatively flat. But when you look at year over year, of course, when we had a crazy summer last summer and the year before that, we have 359 pending last year compared to the 224 and 460 the year before that. So absolutely insane. Things are getting back to more of that normal pace. 212 sale, down from the 368 we saw last year, which is slightly more than what we had the year prior. Again, when we had those kind of crazy summer times. In the summer, we typically see the most amount of available homes, and then pendings and sales kind of level off. And then we maybe get an uptick later in the year for our fall market, and then we cool off in the wintertime. That's our typical seasonal cycle, and it looks like that's kind of what we're getting back to, except we have a lot more available than we've been experiencing. One thing to note, month over month, inventory is up. Not by a whole lot, but it is kind of a lot for Canyon County, but it's no longer doubling basically. We have doubled from what we were a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, excuse me. When we get into the sales price for the year, however, we have come up in Canyon County almost 19% so far year to date with the average sales price. Average sales price in Canyon County is now $478,000, which is incredible. I do anticipate that Canyon County will continue to see sale prices level off the same way that Ada County has, just in a different way. They'll likely see Canyon County for the year have a pretty high appreciation, but by the time we get to the end of the year, I don't think we're going to see it really be nearly as high as what we saw last year, even though this is basically halfway through the year, because I think because inventory is coming up and demand has been leveling off, it wouldn't make sense for the average sales price to continue to appreciate in that rapid of a pace. So Canyon County, breaking down by the price point, we are still considered a very strong seller's market with less than 1 month supply up to 400,000, less than 3 months up to 600, and then still considered a seller's market across the board up to 800. Then once we're in the 800,000 plus market, 800 to 1.5 million is in that section where they call it a balanced market. And then 1.5 million and up, we have a very strong buyer's market with 30 months supply. Anything beyond 6 months is what's considered to be a buyer's market, because it takes longer than 6 months for us to completely run out of available homes. So inventory, this would mean if no new homes came on the market between 1.5 million and 2 million, and we continued to sell homes in that price range at the same pace that they have been selling, it would take 30 months to sell out of the available homes that we have for sale in that price point right now. So that just shows that, we had 2 homes sell in the last year that were 1.5 to 2 million, and we have 5 that are available. So it makes sense that why that would be over 2 years availability, because we only had 2 in the last year, and we have more than double that available right now. Average days on market in Canyon County has come up again another day. So 17 days is the average compared to 16, which we had last month. That is slightly less than what we have in Ada County, but about the same. The inventory that we have available on average, 2.2, slightly less than what we have in Ada County again, but about the same. We're in that 2-month category. Now, when you look at, this is one of the reasons why I think that 18.8% appreciation so far year to date is going to slow dramatically. And that's because the average sales price over the last 12 months was $478, right? Well, the average pending in MLS for Canyon County right now is only $490. So that's barely a difference. And then we have the average asking price being $535 essentially. So this is what sellers are hoping for. This is essentially what they're probably getting close to, and then ultimately what they're getting. And as you know, maybe not being deep into the market like I am, sellers aren't getting 100% of asking price as often anymore, even though the average list to sell ratio in Canyon County is still drastically over 100%, 110% of list price. So it's possible that they're getting, 10% more than what we're seeing here on average. However, that's not what I think we're really experiencing out there. And so the data it's not lying to you, it's just not telling the whole story. Because the 478 to the 490, so basically a $10,000 delta, that kind of, to me, shows that prices are leveling off. So I think that 18.8% increase that we've seen in Canyon County so far this year is going to be about what we end the year with, potentially, unless something happens to where interest rates come down and demand starts coming up and inventory starts coming down again. So that'll be interesting to just kind of keep an eye out for. Canyon County top 3 areas, though. Greenleaf coming in at number 1, almost always up there, 16% so far year to date, with an average sales price in Greenleaf of $498 almost. And then Wilder, number 2, almost 16%, 15.9 at $447,000 average sales price out in Wilder. And then in Parma, 12.2% so far this year, with an average sales price in Parma of just over $368,000. So that just kind of shows the breakdown. One of the reasons I think these areas are most of the time in those top categories is just because there are fewer sales out there. So every sale that happens really spikes the numbers a bit. Because when you get to some of the areas in Canyon County that have a lot of sales that just cover a lot of homes, because the higher density than what you have in Greenleaf, Wilder, and Parma, you have, smaller appreciation of like 8%, 5%, 10%. 10% is still more than what we're seeing in Ada County by almost double, but still, the less dense areas almost always grow the most in price. When we're looking at the interest rates, they actually dipped this week. The last couple weeks, they've come down a little bit, and they're finally below 5% for the first time in a little bit. 4.99% is the average 30-year fixed. So this is the report from Freddie Mac and their mortgage research survey. So you can see that they're down almost 1/3% from the week prior, which was already down 1/4% from the week prior to that. So as of yesterday, the average interest rate nationally from Freddie Mac is just under 5%. Now, your interest rate with your lender is going to be different according to the national average. So it depends on, your specific credit situation as well as your individual needs, and then of course the lender that you're with. So if you aren't working with the lender and you're a buyer or maybe you own a home and you're thinking about refinancing because you've missed the boat over the last couple of years to refinance, and maybe you bought a home back when interest rates were 6%, 7%, what have you, and you want to refinance, and the 5% seems high to you, well, there are lenders out there that can give you less than 5%. So just reach out to me. I'm happy to partner up with you and them, and make sure that you get well taken care of and get a great rate, because that's gotten more and more important than it has over the past couple years. So that's something that's good to note, is that make sure that you know who to talk to and shop around when you're looking at lenders, because different rates vary across the board. And then rate isn't everything. Make sure that the fees that you're paying, so if you're paying a really great rate but you have a lot of upfront fees, well, maybe that's the same as paying a little bit higher rate for lower fees upfront. You just have to figure out what's going to be best for you on that. So that's with interest rates. When you're thinking about moving, if you're thinking about this summer or fall, the summer is so fast approaching to a close. I can't believe we're already in the first week of August, and here in just over a month, we're going to have the end of summer officially with the fall equinox. And now is the time to meet with a real estate professional if you're thinking about moving this summer still, or even if you're preparing for this fall, or maybe want to get into a home before the holidays. Now is really the time to get started, because the typical closing time frame is still about 30 days from an offer acceptance. And then there's the things we need to do prior to getting an offer accepted to make sure that everybody's ready to go. And then if you're a home seller, if you have a home to sell, now's a great time to get your preparations underway. If you want to get your home on the market this August or September, we want to move quickly. And of course, if you're in a hurry, you need to sell now, we can definitely get your home listed sooner. But one thing that's kind of fun about getting preparations underway, especially if you're not even thinking about moving until next spring, is you can get some of those preparations and home projects done, and then you get to enjoy them for the holidays. And then after the holidays, when you're ready to move out, you can get your home on the market, and you don't have to worry about scrambling to get your house ready, because it's mostly already ready to go because you worked on those preparations. And then you got to have a fantastic holiday season in a house that's already had those projects done. So that's kind of my 2 cents with that. And here's our expectations for the rest of 2022. We're likely going to continue to see inventory rise. It'll pretty much probably stay over 1,000 available homes throughout the fall, because I don't think we're going to see inventory drop dramatically. It is likely that we'll see inventory start to decline here in the next couple of weeks as people get closer to back to school season and what have you. So that'll be interesting to see if that does in fact take place. That's just what I'm guessing. Interest rates are likely to still rise, even though they came down the past couple of weeks. According to Freddie Mac and other reports that I'm reading, interest rates are likely to continue to rise. So mortgage rates could be back to 5.5% or maybe even more by the end of the year. So interest rates are kind of up in the air. If you're very curious about what interest rates are going to be doing, I would definitely want to partner you with a lender, because they know more about that than I do. I just get from what I read from my reports from Freddie Mac. And the in-migration from other states is likely going to continue to prop up the demand that we're seeing from diminished buyers stepping away from the market because interest rates came up and they automatically just kind of had no longer qualified for a mortgage on the prices that they were shopping for. So people moving from other high-priced areas to the Treasure Valley and other affordable cities around the nation, because again, pricing in our metro area compared to other metro areas that are similar is still technically pretty good. And I think with prices, though, we're going to see them to continue to stabilize. The deceleration in growth is going to continue. We're likely to see prices pretty much flatten for Ada County, and I think Canyon County honestly is going to flatten as well, even though it's seen an 18% increase this year. And the unfortunate fact with that is some homes are going to be more affected by this than others. So if you're curious about how your home fits into the current market, just reach out. I'm always happy to give you an update, whether or not you're thinking about moving. Maybe you're just curious about just how your home relates to the market as a whole, because maybe homes that have factors that are positives and negatives are definitely weighed more now because there's just more to choose from. So say your home backs up to a busy road, your home is going to be more negatively impacted than a home that doesn't back up to the busy road, but is, say, in the same subdivision and the same condition, roughly. And then maybe your home has a view And yeah, that you compare that with another home that's in the same area that doesn't have a view. Well, that view is going to have a much higher impact than what we've seen over the past couple of years. Just like that busy road is going to have a much higher impact over what we've seen the past couple of years, because people have choices now, so they can choose to go with that over the other. So prices are going to continue to stabilize with that fact. Competition for homes, that's going to be continued pretty modest. No longer a frenzy. Buyers are less likely to compete against multiple offers, maybe one or two if they're going after, those really competitive listings, the one of a kinds, the ones that are super awesome condition and super great price. And sellers just won't get those ridiculous selling prices anymore. Because people aren't willing to pay, $100,000, $200,000 more than asking price, because interest rates honestly are too high to enable that to happen. So as a seller, it's going to be even more important to make sure your home stands out against the competition, both in price and condition. And there are fewer buyers out there, so there's going to be lots of competition for the buyers that are out there. So we have, 200 more homes available now than what we had last month, and only the same number of buyers bought them. So you're competing for the same number of buyers, and you have more competition out there. So make sure your agent knows how to make your home shine, and couple that with great marketing, because there's still a lot of really crappy marketing out there, and I just don't understand it in a shifting market like this, why you'd have, terrible iPhone photos or just something that doesn't make the home look its best. And then as a buyer, it's going to be still super important to have your ducks in a row. That way you can move forward when you have the right place. And it won't feel nearly as chaotic when looking for homes, because not only will you be able to negotiate probably, but as a buyer, you can really set time aside to go look at homes. You can say, okay, I'm interested in potentially, these 5 or 6 homes. Let's set aside some time on Thursday afternoon, and we're going to go take a look at them. And guess what? Probably 5 out of those 6 homes are still going to be available for you to look at and enjoy. So then you don't have to rush after work every single day looking for homes. And if you weren't a buyer in the past couple of years, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you were, you'll find that very, very true. That's kind of what we have as a wrap, though, for this deep dive into the market. Feel free to send any questions that you have, leave them in the comments below. I'm always happy to make sure that I'm giving you valuable information in order for you to make a decision that's right for you and your family, or just stay apprised on the market and impress your friends. My number, 208-914-1095. You can also always email me or check out my website. I do post my market updates on there on a weekly basis as well. And then we also have a newsletter that I send out every week. The link to sign up for that is also going to be in the description below. So that's what we have going on right now, and we will see you next week for our mini update of Market Watch.